everybody? Hope you're all having a good Tuesday. Flying solo this morning, but Sheets will be back this afternoon. Had a really good night last night, but not quite able to take anything down. I think I finished like third in the $44 or fourth. I think it was third or fourth. Then I finished like 16th in the 250 and basically like doubled my money, which is not a bad night. But was hoping for a little more. Hopefully we can keep the momentum going on this end. And hopefully you guys did well as well. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go through it game by game, just do a little preview here. Please like and subscribe and all that stuff. And check out the packages we have right now. I'm telling you, we're definitely, I think for what we're offering, we're the cheapest in the industry. So I would appreciate if you guys at least take a look at it and see if it might be something for you. Anyway, we'll get into it. Let's start off with the Yankees and Mets. And I've got my little weather screen up on my other page, so I'll be jotting my eyes back and forth a little bit. All right, so we have Gil and Quintana. I think that Gil is always in play just because the upside is there, but he's been better after a little struggles there for a minute. But I think that there's other pitchers that I have a little bit higher priorities on, but he's definitely in the mix. I got a lot of good pitchers on the slate to consider. I don't really like stacking against Quintana. It is Yankee Stadium. It's a Yankee team that's good against lefties. They've got some cheap options further down in the order. I think we could make an argument here for the Yankees, but I am probably going to not be that guy. I do think you can always play. Let's just see real quick what Goldie's got ownership-wise. I'm going to guess that like Judge. Actually, they're looking like the Yankees are going to have some decent ownership. So I'm probably not going to get on the Yankees as a full stack today, but haven't written it off yet. Just don't generally love to do it against Santana. I don't think we have some other spots I'd rather attack today, but they can certainly be considered on the at least consideration list this early in the day. All right. We have a bullpen on Tampa Bay's side. No surprise there. Tyler Alexander and Sean Armstrong will start. Tyler Alexander will be the long man. I don't think you need to make these plays, but I think that Berrios is not like ridiculous. I think even Alexander on a different slate, I might argue to get a little different, but I just don't think it's worth it. You look at the strikeout props compared to some of the guys we have later, 4.8 for Berrios at 8,100. It's a little too high of a price, but I'll take the over on whatever. I think the over 5.5 even would make some sense for Berrios in this matchup. In which case, I think he's you could consider him, but not overly excited about it. Not really overly excited about anything in this matchup. I think that the Blue Jays stack is completely viable, but I don't find it to be like a must play, or don't love stacking against the long bullpen games. I don't think all that much of Alexander, but you do have the opener, and just don't really love. It's hard to stack against Tampa Bay because they use so many different pitchers sometimes. However, you do have Leo Jimenez is supposed to be in the lineup at 2,200. It's a very cheap stack, so maybe that's why it's showing up so well. So I guess we'll put Toronto in this sort of a similar category that we will the Yankees early on in the day. At least I will for right now. Moving over to Atlanta, Cincinnati, I think that this is probably for good reason. The Chris Sale is I think, very good chalk today, or pretty good chalk, depending on what happens with the weather. You can take a quick note and take a look at see Roth's notes on these weather situations, because this one he's got is yellow. So as of right now, I'm going to treat it as if it's playing fine, and assuming that it does play fine. I think that Chris Sale has a strikeout. I think his expectancy is like almost a full strikeout higher than anybody else on the slate. You got Cincinnati at home. It is, it's only 78 degrees in Atlanta, so it's not like this 95 degree with 20-mile-an-hour winds blowing out. It's 4-mile-an-hour winds blowing to left. Nothing that's overly worrisome for Sale. So I'll immediately click while we're here and just make him the first priority on the slate in terms of pitching. A lot of other guys you can consider if you want to go a different route. I think he makes the most sense just from a raw points, raw numbers sort of standpoint. What I think, though, is I've always been a little bit lower on Nick Martinez. That seems like than everybody else, which I don't think other people that high. I don't really know how much. What is he going to? Is he going to be like an opener? I mean, he's basically not pitching any real innings. Are they going to change that after the All-Star break? It seems like that's the plan. So I'm a little stuck here because I don't really want to attack a bullpen game on a giant slate, but it's not really a bullpen game. And let's just see what we have expected for Nick Martinez pitch wise. Yeah, 40. I just don't know what the hell that is, and I don't really know what to do with that. Let's take this off of here. Hunter Green yesterday. Obviously, that was a good core play for me. I want to play Atlanta a little bit, and I don't really I need to look in to see what Cincinnati's plans have been with the previous Martinez games. I'll do that before 6. But I think Atlanta getting super low ownership on them here, and they have struggled. I think this might not be a bad place to go to get a little different. Also interested to see what kind of how their lineup shakes out today. So I think Atlanta is an interesting, probably of the teams we mentioned so far. I think Atlanta might be the most interesting of those stacks. All definitely in play though for me. All meaning Toronto, New York, and Atlanta. All right, moving over to Philadelphia, Minnesota. Looks like this game should be good to go today. And it's look, there's nothing great hitting weather-wise. We've got Wheeler with, I believe, the 3rd highest K prop on the slate. I think Wheeler's a great play here. And I think if you can start with Wheeler and Sale, that's not a bad way to go. We have some other guys we'll talk about a little later. And at the same time, look, it's a stadium downgrade for Philadelphia in general, but shouldn't we be playing some Philly here? Now they're expensive, which is going to keep people off them. They're going to be more popular on FanDuel. But again, Woods Richardson, not a guy who I'm afraid to take some bets against. At the same time, he's been solid enough to where I could say, okay, well, we don't need to do that. I don't think he's given up more than 3 runs in his last 5 starts. But it's the Phillies. It should be a solid spot for them. So I'm going to go ahead and put the Phillies down as another one to be considered right here. I'm going to and sort of try and tie it together at the end because I'm still not sure what I want to do after going through this slate stack wise, and hopefully we can figure some of that out together here. All right, we're in Chicago, which we all know means what happens with the weather, what happens with the wind. Now, still, this game has a very low total at only 8.5, but the wind is blowing out to center at left to right center at 8 miles an hour. I'm gonna keep an eye on this one. It's also Roth has it as yellow as well. But I'm going to say that this game might be a sneaky spot where we could take both sides. I actually like that a little bit. And you have a very affordable, nobody above 5K on the Chicago side. Unfortunately, no Bellinger. So I like the spot against Ray for them better than I do against Tyon for the Brewers. But I like both of them, actually. So I'm probably going to be getting exposure to both sides of this. I think that when everybody's off of it, and I know Chicago's really struggled, and they don't have Bellinger, et cetera. But I still think that there's some opportunities with these guys at these prices. I don't have. I am not a guy who's afraid to stack against Colin Ray. Although I just should remind he's been basically really good. I don't know, 60% of his starts this year, and basically average to poor in the other 40%. But I like this game a little bit for hitting, and assuming that the wind stays blowing out, it's 80 degrees. If that wind picks up at all, you can expect to see that total jump and probably the ownership jump along with it as well. Anyway, so I'm on board here with the Ray Tyon. I'm sorry, with the Cubs and Brewers against Ray and Tyon. And you're going to see, you notice there's not a lot of huge totals today. It's just that's going to happen because everybody's the first couple. We're in the rotation of the aces for many of the teams after the All-Star break as of today, because Friday was, the first game after the break. So it's going to be a lot of good hitting. I'm sorry, a lot of good pitching. All right, this is the other spot you're looking at. Crochet, I believe, has the second. Yeah, he does have the second highest strikeout prop on the slate. John Gray at 7K versus Texas versus Chicago seems very reasonable. And I know he hasn't been great, but I think Crochet belongs right in there with Wheeler and Sale. I have him just a notch below those guys because I have a little bit of probably too much respect, to be honest, at this point for the Rangers. They don't really do anything, and I sort of feel like it's become like a name brand only value. I still think it's a tough matchup to just go ahead and pay 10K for a pitcher against, but I'm probably willing to do it tonight. Nothing's going to happen for me hitting wise in this game. I'm definitely more interested in the pitching, and Gray is the spend down that I'm sort of siding with so far in the slate. All right, moving along, we're going to talk about Arizona and KC. This is what I got very much correct last night. I was very high on the KC stack, as I kept pointing out. They had about 30% of my lineups, and they did. They were tremendous, and it would have looked like it was going to be even better for a while. It just kind of died out after that. What was it, like the fourth inning? They had 9 runs in the fourth, so they ended up, I believe, with 10. So could have done even better, but hey, can't get too greedy, I guess. Did get the home run from Renfroe at 3%, so feel pretty good about it. Anyway, I'm not playing Alec Marsh against Arizona here, and I think this falls into another category of where we don't have the ace pitchers. This is another spot where I'm looking at both sides both sides here. I like Arizona and I like KC. It's 86 degrees in Kansas City, no real wind. It's 3 miles an hour blowing across the field, so it means nothing. But I like this. I like this whole game to target. So I'm gonna put Arizona and Cincinnati back on. I'm sorry, Arizona and Kansas City. Excuse me, guys. I don't know what's happening with me this morning. For some reason, I don't know if it's this. I have this little staff thing in my eye. It throws my equilibrium off. But every time I look at the teams from just even from this far from my computer, I keep getting it mixed up. All right, Arizona. So that's Arizona KC. I think these are really reasonable stack spots, and I would lean more towards full stacking today because we have some great pitchers in certain spots, and we also have there's a few games like this one where there's just significant drop off in the pitching as compared to the others. All right, Cooper Criswell, Ty Block. You're going to have the chalk Red Sox again. Although look at this early ownership; it seems a little low, right, on the Red Sox. A team with a 6 total, pretty clear of everyone else. Yes, they're expensive, but this is actually at the point where if you're playing like as many lineups as they'll allow, if you're playing with the 20 max, or you're playing 20, I would have no trouble stacking the Red Sox if we believe these ownerships to be somewhat near correct. And I think it's reasonable. So I don't mind that at all. I also think you go right back to Colorado tonight. They're going to have a little more ownership than they did last night, but I think this is a reasonable spot. Obviously, it's in Coors. It's 88 degrees today. No real wind to speak of at the moment. I think that you want to get the Boston, Colorado. I think both sides of this definitely make some sense. Certainly higher on the Boston side, but as will everyone else be. So I would encourage you guys to take a look at Colorado. And interesting that again, we always say, game stacks aren't a thing in baseball. Well, they often, just because of the weather, the matchups, and things like that, they end up working out that way. So I've got right now so far my favorites is Milwaukee Chicago game, Arizona KC game, and the Boston Colorado game. And I like both sides of all of those, so I'm gonna have to make some decisions pretty soon. But yeah, I really I think this is a good spot to attack the bats. All right, Houston and Oakland. We have Bloss and Bebo. We've seen some recent power stuff from Oakland. It's sort of started to carry over. Lawrence Butler hit 3 home runs the other day, and Oakland just doesn't seem like the rollover that they had been most of the season. However, I'm going to go with long-term, numbers and probabilities. The thing is, I just don't know how many pitches Bloss is going to throw. We've got him written in here at 86. I don't know if I even buy that, to be honest with you. And then Bebo, I just can't believe that this would make any sense as a play, or that he'll even pitch as far. Like his projected pitch count, his projected pitches is at 75. He hasn't thrown anywhere near that outside of, I think so basically he's thrown it a couple times, but they used him for like 2 innings in his last time out. So it's sort of a guessing man's game. Either way, you have a bad bullpen behind him, and I know they were terrible to us last night. Maybe we could talk ourselves back into going to Houston. It's a little bit cooler, 75 degrees as opposed to like the 80 that it was. Although I think it got cooler before game time last night, so probably ended up in a similar realm. But I like the idea of Houston. It's just a matter of how many teams do we want to play today and how many teams do we want to have a list of. Well, I'm okay with having a big list to start as long as I can narrow it down later. So I'm throwing Houston into the mix as one of those teams that I'm definitely considering stacking. And I think that you could even throw the A's on the other side into, I don't know if I want a full stack, but again, certainly as a mini stack, you got Lawrence Butler at 3,700, who's just been going nuts. You got the cheap, not cheap, but affordable Blade batting third at 4K, Langoliers batting fifth. Those would be my favorite pieces. But I certainly think that both sides of this game, you can make an argument for the hitting. I'm not going to get to the pitcher. I might reconsider the Houston pitcher, but I don't think I will. I just think there's too many other options. All right. Gilbert and Soriano. Again, hard not to have a little bit of interest in both these guys. My guess is that Soriano is going to be right there. Yeah, strikeout-wise, almost with Gilbert. Gilbert's a little bit higher, but these two would also be part of the group that I would be using today. Again, if I had to rate Gilbert, I have him a little behind Sale, Wheeler, and right there with Crochet. And Soriano, I think, is a totally reasonable play, maybe a little bit of a better play even than John Gray is. So I'm into taking both shots on the pitching in this game. Now, I actually don't mind, again, and I don't want to get too many stacks, but you've got Robles at 2,400. You see how cheap Seattle is in general. I have no issue with the Seattle stack. They're probably going to be on the outside looking in for me. but definitely don't mind if you want to go that route. I think it's totally reasonable on this kind of slate. All right, we're closing it out with the Giants at my Dodgers, the old rivalry. All right, so we've got Knack and Hicks. I'm not playing either of these pitchers for sure. I am interested in the bats again in this game, and it's hard with San Francisco because they don't have that much power, but they are affordable. And the Dodgers, we know who to play at low ownership. They're just always going to be. Again, I remind everybody that for the Giants, this is like their World Series type of games. They really do. They bring in every pitcher for every matchup and every pinch hitter they can. The Dodgers don't treat it quite the same way, at least not this early in the season. But I still think it's a good spot to attack both of it. So this is what I'm going to have to decide on later today to sort of tie this stuff together. So the stacks that I've got are basically both sides of these games, although there's, Milwaukee, Chicago, slightly prefer the Chicago side. Arizona, KC, slightly prefer the KC side, but like both. Boston, Colorado, prefer the Boston side, but the Colorado's lower owned. Houston, Oakland. Oakland is going to be the lower owned side, and they're cheap, so maybe use them as mini pieces to go with whatever stacks you decide with. And then both the Giants and Dodgers would be my last two. Another warm night in LA, could be right around 80, 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to center. And I'm in on going back to the Dodgers here again today. So that's what I've got for the hitting. The pitching, I've got Sale, Wheeler, and then as my favorite two spend-ups, then Crochet, and then Gilbert. Well, Crochet and Gilbert, let's just call it tie at number 3 for the spend-ups. For the cheapos, it's going to be Sonny Gray and Soriano. That's what I've got for the pitching for right now. I'll fine-tune things. Obviously, we might get some different lineups in. We'll see the value. We'll take a quick look and just take a quick look at some of the early value that's out there. Not like overwhelmingly obvious stuff. Robles is the one that stands out to me because he's 2,400 batting second. Batting leadoff. LeMahieu might be leading off at 2,800 for a team with a 5 total or expected 5 total on SaberSim. That's something that I think is interesting. If you guys want to, I'm going to build one sim here and just sort of get an idea of what it's doing. I think that, here, let's do it like this. And we'll do it for the 20 max, and we'll just do it for the 20 max and see what it gives us. Let's see. And so many tournaments in baseball. It's like it just takes a while to find it here for me for a second. Tell me, let's see, where 20 max. All right, where are you? All right, you know what? Let's do the bat flip. I don't want to keep looking the whole time. Not exactly the best entertainment, is it? All right, so let's do that, and then we'll change a couple projections, and then we'll just do this and see what SaberSim thinks we should be doing. 6.3. All right, so and then we can build these and see what they're going to be on. And we'll see we'll check with the min uniques. We'll run the sim. We'll do all those things and see where we're at. If there's any questions or thoughts, guys, feel free to drop them in. Again, we appreciate it. If you like and subscribe, all that stuff. I put the membership page. That's the login there. Basically, what we have is we have all of SaberSim's offerings, and we're really about we're just a few dollars more than they are. We have all of Sheets' projections, which have been the absolute nuts. Goldie's projections, as well as all of my content, all of Rody's content, all of Brandon Cruz, Chan for LOL, a lot of stuff that we're offering here. So I think that it's probably worth taking a look for some of you guys. I think that it's pretty interesting. Anyway, we move on. Let's see what we got here. These little dead air things. I know Sheets is a lot more comfortable with it than I am. I learned from my Roto Grinders days that it's not you just try to avoid the dead air. Actually, I learned before that, but that was part of it. Let's run the sim. And then we're going to go to probably 2 min uniques to see what it gets us. And I've been doing a little bit. Look at this sale thing. It's bouncing backward. I do a little bit of the same thing that Sheets was talking about, where sometimes, especially in golf, like if the min uniques don't hit sort of closer to what I want, I was noticing that I was doing that in Showdown. I would just change the min uniques to see if it gets you closer to where you want, but you still want SaberSim to do some of the work, right? Like that's the thing is you do want to let them do some of the work because that's what their value is. So I'm trying to get in the habit of, if I do program, to try to, maybe like not try to have a certain ownership for every player, just to try to, have my, in golf, my 20 favorite guys, and then let them sort of figure out the rest for me. I think that's a reasonable way to go. So let's see what we're getting exposure wise. Let's start with the pitching and see what SaberSim really likes today. Oops, excuse me. All right. So they're going with 100% sale. They love sale. Wow, it's pretty a lot of 1-1 here. That's pretty wild. Okay, so let's see if we do 2 min uniques, and then we'll see where we get. So it bumped up a couple of the other guys, but Sale Soriano seems like a logical way, and that makes a lot of sense. Wheeler Gilbert next. Nothing, not getting to the Crochet, who I just love Crochet as a pitcher. I do worry a little bit about this matchup, but I again love him as a pitcher. I'm gonna go with a 3 and see where it gets us, and then we'll go to stacks and see what they've got. They're just getting Sale no matter what. But you see it gets the Jake Bloss thing. I'm not sure. I love that spend up, spend down thing with Bloss. I just think I'd rather play Soriano or John Gray. But hey, I've been wrong before plenty of times, so can't say for sure. All right, they've got Milwaukee. So I mentioned the Milwaukee-Chicago as the first game, and they like Milwaukee and Chicago, so they went heavy on that. To go with that many White Sox stacks, and I'm going to guess most of them are 5-man. Yeah. I just think that's, it's just a little bit much for me. I get it. And they're so cheap, but I think if I was trying to play the White Sox, I'd try to keep it to 4 or 3, just because the offense just doesn't have that much power, that much pop. So we want to get a little bit more exposure to that, that real upside, which Milwaukee has. They like the Colorado a little bit. Let's see what happens if we go back to 2 uniques for the stacks. Yeah, you get even more White Sox. 1, let's see what 1 takes us. And then it goes, 80, it goes higher on Milwaukee. And then let's just try real quickly for fun. 5 is kind of a number I never use, but Milwaukee, Chicago, yeah, they're pretty heavy on what they like. So that's what SaberSim likes. Look, it's this what I tell everybody about SaberSim. If you're going to be scripting things and you're playing baseball, you got to be willing to go at it with some of these lousy things. However, you lose 2 or 3 days and then you ship the lottery like Sheets used to do. He would be like, I'm not even I have no lineups within 100 points of anybody. And then next thing you know, he win in the lottery, maybe not 2 or 3 days, maybe every 2 or 3 weeks. Just felt like every 2 or 3 days to me. But it's interesting. And I like the Milwaukee and Cubs side of this personally. I don't mind the value from Chicago, but I just don't particularly want to make a full 5-man on this slate with all the other offenses. So that's where we're at. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys to get your day started. We'll be live with you at 6 Eastern. Good luck to everybody today. Hope you guys crush it, and see you at the top of the leaderboards later on after seeing you on the next show.